statistical mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
We are getting actually very close to, well, it's a day that I deemed a global Bitcoin buy day. That is late Sunday night into Monday is what I deem as global Bitcoin buy period or global Bitcoin buy day. The time does sort of bridge 2 days based on my time zone in the world. But I've statistically found throughout my technical study of Bitcoin over the years is that that period typically statistically offers the very best entry prices if you are doing a weekly dollar cost averaging plan. So if you purchase or buy Bitcoin on a weekly basis, my studies have shown that the best day, it's not perfect, but the best time throughout the week is late Sunday night into Monday morning. Now I'm on the East Coast. Well, I'm on East Coast time, more or less. I mean, but in my zone of the world, that is statistically the best time. So we're coming upon that. In a few hours from now, we'll start that period. And so if anyone who is DCing on a weekly basis into Bitcoin, I'd strongly encourage that you consider that time. Now, also statistically, out of all the days of the week, Tuesday is statistically the very best day of the week. So Tuesday as a day has delivered more gains for Bitcoin than any other day of the week. Now, I've done these statistical studies on virtually every single asset out there. That's been my profession for 40 years. So knowing these specific anomalies and knowing these specific statistical facts about your asset has always been very important in my line of work. And so quite naturally, once I got into Bitcoin, I felt it was imperative for me to do study on those types of things. Now, if anyone is looking for perfection for that, then you're barking up the wrong tree, because perfection just simply doesn't exist when it comes to these things. And we're always talking about probabilities here. And we're talking about predominantly the 70 to 80% rule. So I look for things that occur about 7 times out of every 10. And anytime I can get better than 7, that's even better. But I try to limit what I bet on. I try to limit what I lean into to only those things that offer those types of probabilities, those types of odds. And so I do get that with the late Sunday night into the first part of Monday as statistically the best buy time. And Tuesday out of every single day of the week statistically is the most bullish day of the week. My traders know all of these statistical facts about the stock market because we're predominantly stock market traders and players. And so, for instance, my traders know that September is the worst month of the year for equity markets in general, for most markets, in fact. My traders know that statistically, May, I would say April into May is the most bullish period of the year. My traders also know that starting from the latter part of October, I would say starting from after the 15th of October into December, and sometimes that actually spills over into the beginning of December. I mean, it's the beginning of January, but that represents the most bullish 3-month period of the year. The most bearish 3-month period of the year really starts late July into the middle of October. And yeah. And so, knowing these statistical things about anything that trades, I think, can provide a slight edge. Now, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter all that much as long as you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is converting the weak into the strong. We have been taught, we have been indoctrinated, we have been brainwashed, to use a stronger word, into believing that we should be dedicating our lives and everything that we are and everything that we have for someone else's token. And for instance, I was taught all my life to work for the dollar. I was taught that he who has the most dollars wins. And so I was taught from early on to get educated. I was taught to become good at something. I was taught to become skillful, to raise my level of intelligence. To do what? I was taught to do all of that to do what? To go out into the world and give all of that away. I was taught to give all of my time away for that, for the dollar. I was taught to all of the talent that I had managed to obtain. I was to take that talent and give it for the dollar. I was to take my time, which is the stuff that life is made up of, and to give that time, to sacrifice the time, not for this, not for that, but to give that time over in exchange for the dollar. We are indoctrinated to give everything that we have and everything that we are for our paper currencies. Some people are indoctrinated to do this for the euro. Some people are indoctrinated to do this for the renminbi. Some people are indoctrinated to do this for the peso, for the bolivar, for the lira, for the Japanese yen, for the euro. And a lot of people are taught to do this for the dollar. But what if we were to change that? What if there is a token that is not forced upon us, that's not based on where you live, that is not an obligation, but that is a choice? What if instead of giving our lives, our time, our effort, our energy, our skill set, our education, our intelligence, what if instead of giving that away in exchange for what someone else told me to do it for, what if there were a choice to change that? And what if that choice was Bitcoin? What if instead of working for dollars, I start doing everything for Bitcoin? So even if in the interim, I have to get dollars for all of my time, it is only to convert into Bitcoin. What if Bitcoin became the token that you gave your life for, your work for, your talent for? What if you swapped the dollar for Bitcoin? And so this, to be honest with you, is exactly what I did. And I try here to communicate that message that, in my opinion, more and more people should investigate that, should look into that. Why is it that I am not a very big believer that you sell Bitcoin? Because the same way you're not a very big believer that you sell dollars. That no one says, well, when are you going to take profits on your dollars? Like if you're working 40 hours a week, right, for dollars, and you get paid every 2 weeks, and you get your paycheck every 2 weeks, No one says, well, all right, so that's your entry point. When are you going to take profits on your 2-week pay? No one says that. Why? Because that's your unit of account. Well, what if you made Bitcoin your unit of account? Now that question goes away, doesn't it? No one, if you don't think about taking profits on your unit of account. So when you make Bitcoin your unit of account, the idea, the thought of taking profits on your unit of account drops, right? And while I know that Bitcoin has yet to become a ubiquitous unit of account, it still is and can be a unit of account before it becomes ubiquitous as a unit of account. I've just decided to make it my unit of account. So I go into the equity markets every single day, every single weekday. I've done this every single day for the last 43 years. I can count on 2 hands how many days I have missed, because all I need is 20 to 30 minutes. And I've rarely missed a day. And today I go into the equity markets. I use the skill that I've managed to develop over the last 40 decades to pull money out of that market. I can't even remember the last time I made a deposit. I believe it was in the early 1990s. I don't make a deposit into that market. I only make withdrawals, but I no longer make withdrawals just to get the dollar. I might make withdrawals with the dollar, but it goes into my new and better, fairer, truer, more real unit of account called Bitcoin. And for this reason, to me, it is silly to go backwards. It is silly for me to now say, well, let me take this freedom that I've gained from this other corrupt token that I was compelled to give my life for, that is in the hands and control of someone else, that a few people can control and do whatever they want to with it without a vote from me, that I've escaped that through Bitcoin. And to go back to that corruption, to go back to that manipulation, to go back to that debasement is to go backwards. But I do understand the urge, because that view can only be yours if you have reached the epiphany that I have, which took hundreds, if not thousands of hours of investigation and study and delving into this thing and realizing, OMG. And so I've decided to dedicate a portion of my time to encouraging people to look at it this way. I think it's a life-changing view. I think it's a life-changing mindset to take on. And so by adopting a weekly DCA, dollar cost averaging approach to Bitcoin, what you are essentially doing is going on an automatic program of making Bitcoin a savings mechanism in your life. And from there, if you take the leap of making it the unit of account of your life, then you realize this never goes back. This never gets converted back. A slave who's achieved freedom, why would they say, well, okay, I've had enough freedom now. I believe that my freedom is a bit overbought, so I'm going to flip back into slavery for the time being, ride things out there, and then I will go back to freedom again. It's the most, at this particular point, the way I see it, that's the most ridiculous view you can adopt. But again, I do understand it. I had that view. I did that even with Bitcoin in the early part of my adoption, for lack of a better word. And I regret every bit of it to this very day. And perhaps one day I will delve into the story of the mistake that I made with Bitcoin initially by selling it thousands of BTC without ever being able to get it back, at least for a very long while. What I consider to be a while anyway. It seemed longer than it was, but anyway, let's see what we got here. Whoa, oh, we got about 10 people here, 15 people. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for attending. Had a little bit of time here. So I wanted to talk today about time itself as our greatest gift and how Bitcoin is actually that gift, because Bitcoin is time. And let me start touching upon this topic right now. I am in the habit of always giving appreciation to all of you, like all of you who are here listening to me. You take the most valuable commodity of your life, which is your time, and you take that and you give that to me. It is something, guys, I've been speaking for the last 30 plus years of my life all over the world. I have a team of 11 simultaneous translators who travel all over the world with me so that no matter where I go, I can deliver whatever message I need to deliver. And I have zero problem with the language. All right. I knew that it was an impossibility for me to become proficient in all of the languages that I needed to get proficient into to spread the message that I wanted to spread. And so what I did is I gave myself the languages through others, through the talents and skills of others. And today I have a team of 11 simultaneous translators. That is why virtually every single thing I do is simultaneously done in at least, of course, I'm the English part. Someone else is doing it in the Spanish part, and someone else is doing it in the Portuguese part. But my point is this, that I'm always giving appreciation for that, because whether there's one person that is willing to listen to me or 1,000 people or 10,000 people, to me, in many respects, it's sort of the same, because the person or the people decided something that they decided to give me something that they can never get back again, ever in their lives. If you give me an hour here, that is an hour that is gone forever. That is a gift. And you gave that gift, you gave a portion of your life to me. How can I not appreciate that? How can I not say thank you? And how can I not do everything that I possibly can within that hour to give you everything that I'm worth, everything that I am, everything that I believe I have a value, and hopefully at the end of an hour, you believe too. And so I've always done that. And so I do want to do that right now. Thank you very much for attending. And thank those of you. I also thank those of you who could not be here and will and are listening to this at some future point. It's still giving your time. And I believe there's a benefit in viewing what you do through the eyes of time, because it truly is the most valuable thing that we have. And in a real sense, it's not even what we have. Time is not what we have. Time is what we are. We're all ticking time. That's all we are. When you lift the curtain and really look deeply behind, we're a clock for the most part. We're a bundle of time. No one knows the final moment, but we do know that every moment that passes moves us closer to the final moment. And whatever we've spent, whatever the time allotted to us that we've spent, that is time that can never be recouped, never be regained. And so time is the greatest gift of all, because time is the very stuff that life is made up of. And so it's something that I don't take for granted. But now let's go to something that was one of the things that truly gripped me. And I have to say this, for lack of a better phrase, in the most violent way. I don't think I've ever been gripped by anything this violently before. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee here. What started orange pilling me with Bitcoin, what started pulling me in a rabbit hole to start to really see that this is different. This is not like anything else I've traded or used to gain dollars with. It was the realization that Bitcoin is time. And I have to give credit and props to a Bitcoiner. His name is Durgigi or Durgigi. I don't really know how you pronounce that. I don't think he posts on Twitter very often, perhaps maybe on Nostr today. But it started with my delving into some of his work. And I have to admit, I almost instantly got it. It hit me like a ton of bricks because time was a topic that I had done a lot of study on as a young adolescent. It was a concept that fascinated me to no end. And so when I finally got this view that Bitcoin is not just a thing to trade, Bitcoin is not just a thing to make money off of. Bitcoin is literally time itself, which means that if time is the most valuable thing we have in life, if time is our gift, if time is our very life, then Bitcoin is our greatest gift, and Bitcoin is our very life. And so a lot of people may not understand right off the bat, like, what do you mean Bitcoin is time? Well, time, and I'm going to save you from going down the rabbit hole with this in terms of the concept of time, but time is something that has never truly existed in the universe, right? Because it is a man-made conceptual item. It doesn't have a true reality of its own. So time is a measurement that human beings apply to occurrences or events. So time is literally created by human beings. This is why you can, at one point in the past, have a calendar that marked a year off at 8 months, and then 10 months, and then another Roman emperor says, well, I want a month with my name on it too, and so now it's an 11-year month. I'm going to extend the year because I want, Julius wanted his own month, and Augustus wanted his own month, so July was added and August was added. And so time is pliable because it's not real. It is the measurement between two events. So if I wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. and then I wash up, sit out on my balcony and have my first coffee of the morning 40 minutes later, then if I measure the space between the time I woke up at 6 and 6:40 when I took the first sip of my coffee, that I created time if I consider the space between those two items. Now, if I were to take my waking up away, and if I were to take the first sip of coffee away, what's left? There is no time, because you need events to measure to create time. So that's the whole rabbit hole in a nutshell. That time is a man-made construct that doesn't really exist. And so if the measurement of time is the measurement between two events, then so now we start with that basis, right? But throughout time, for lack of no pun intended there, that was a mistaken pun right there. Sometimes my puns are on purpose, but that shocked me there. But okay, so at some point, time can be played with because it's not real. History, which is the measurement of time, history is nothing more than measuring the distances between events, right? That's what we call history. It is this event happened and then that event happened, and then you measure the space, and that's time. And so history is the study of time, as it is a man-made construct. And so, but the history as we know has been played with. All right. History has typically been written and changed and altered and modified and falsified, usually by the winner or by those that are in control. They create the history. So in a sense, those that are in control or the winners of wars, they've created time. They've taken this pliable man-made concept called time and applied it to their own liking. Okay. And so what happens is history very reliable? Not very reliable. Is the time that we have assigned to things very reliable? No, it's not very reliable. Okay. But here comes something that measures or creates time through blocks. And so on average, Bitcoin produces a block, an event, every 10 minutes, forever. And what's interesting about the blocks or the events that are made by Bitcoin, these events are immutable. The ledger of time for Bitcoin is immutable. It cannot be altered by any human being. It cannot be changed. It's not pliable anymore. It's not movable. You can't manipulate the time. You can't change the time. You can't alter it. And for the first time, again, no pun intended, for the first time in the history of mankind, time is no longer in the control of a human being. So this time does not run based on a human's measurement. And its time, once it is produced, is permanent forever, meaning that it will exist. The events that you're measuring time with are written in the proverbial stone code that no person will ever be able to change, alter, or modify. And so I say that Bitcoin is the first rendition or the first thing to bring to humans real time. And what events are the events that are the most important events in life are the events in which we transfer value. Otherwise, it's really not that important of an event, is it? If I transfer something of value to you, that is an event. That's an event worth measuring time for. You know, but if I spit on the ground, I'm not sure that's an event worth measuring time for. So time shouldn't be measured by how many times I've spit on the ground in the last hour, but how many times have human beings transferred value, transferred the very essence of what you are, because you, at the end of the day, are your value. You have given your time and your energy and all of what you know, all of what you are, your skill, your ability, your intelligence, you've given that away in exchange for something. That something is value. So you receive value for what you gave, And so if you move that value, that's something we should create time for. That's something that should be immutable. That's something that should be recorded. That's something that should last forever. And so what if Bitcoin becomes the first real timekeeper for human beings to measure the acts of value that if it's valuable for a human being to act, it's recorded? And what if Bitcoin's first use case is just money? What if that's just one of millions of use cases over time? Again, no pun intended, in the future. I remember when the internet came into existence that the idea was that it was just basically like just another way of chatting. It was it was chat. Okay, so I can chat without a phone to someone. And people thought the extent of its use cases was chat, or it just replaced a fax machine. So then when you were able to send a file to someone or send a note or send a letter, then it moved from basically just being a chat piece of technology to being, all right, it's a file transfer system. And little did anyone know in those beginning days, I lived through those beginning days, little did anyone know how it would actually, its use cases would actually grow beyond chat, beyond sending files, to basically disrupting every single area of our lives. And today, the internet has changed virtually every single thing in our lives, from the way we walk, talk, eat, relate with each other, meet each other, have intimate relations with each other. It's influenced the way we consume music, entertainment, movies, the way we consume information and knowledge, basically the way we live our lives. And no one at that time could have imagined all of the areas of life that it would change. And I believe that Bitcoin is the newest rendition of that same spirit, that same movement that we saw in the internet. It just passed the baton to Bitcoin. And so, what if Bitcoin's first use is akin to the internet's first use of chat? What if Bitcoin's first use of money is equivalent or akin to the internet's first use of chat? And what if, just like Amazon started with books, and people would tell me when I put almost everything I owned into Amazon back in 2003, that Oliver, it's just a bookstore. They sell books, dude. What are you doing? I'm like, you don't get it. They're just going to perfect the book model because the books, there's no other category with this many, there's no other item with this many categories. And so if they conquer books, then they can go to anything else on planet Earth. You're not getting it, I used to tell them. That they're starting with books. It's not going to stay there. It's not going to end at books. They're going to take digital shelves and take the same way they digitize the shelves of all bookstores. They're going to digitize the shelves of every single thing you can buy on planet Earth for the most part. And I saw it early. I saw how the internet had chat first and moved to everything else, and Amazon had books first and moved to everything else, and Bitcoin has money first and will move to everything else. What if Bitcoin's network becomes where you do anything of value? Buy a house. Wouldn't you want that event to be recorded in something that can't be fucked with, right? Can't be moved, can't be changed, can't be influenced by another human being? Well, what about getting married? Oh, well, wait a minute. That might be a bad example. You might want to change that. But you know what I'm saying. The point is that if it's the ultimate way to record time, then perhaps it's the ultimate history keeper for all human beings throughout the rest of their lives, throughout the rest of the eons. And so going down this rabbit hole that, wait a minute, Bitcoin is time, it's literally creating time. It's the only time that matters because it's the only, if and when, and I truly believe this is going to happen, where everything of value has to be done on the Bitcoin blockchain because it's the safest place to do it. It's the most secure place to do it. It's the most secure network in the world. So what other network are you going to choose to do it on? It's the only network that's never been hacked and never can be hacked. What other network are you going to do it on? It's the only network that's not in control, that can be changed by any human being on planet Earth, that's not run by any human being, but every human being has access to it and can verify it. What other network are you going to do it on? It's the only network that is truly global. What other network are you going to do it on? It's the only network that is operational 24 hours a day. It never has a vacation, never is down, never has a coffee break, never sick at sea. What other network are you going to do it on? I believe we get to the place where no one wants to do anything on anything except Bitcoin. And I believe that the use cases for it will go way beyond money to recording everything that's important. Everything that's important to human beings will be recorded in the annals of the only history timekeeper that truly deserves that title. You know, humans have a very short memory. But what if it's the only way we could really know it was true is if it happened on the Bitcoin time chain? And then you could know it's true. Generations long after we're gone can know your actions, can track what you did, every move, every action of import can be known and never be lost. This is powerful, people. This is way more than Oliver. So, is it overbought? Should I sell it? This is way bigger than that. You can't think like that now. You know? Wow, this coffee is great. So, I would encourage, if you find anything that I say of value or anything interesting here, I'd encourage that you start looking into Bitcoin as time. It is not by mistake that Bitcoin's blockchain is called a time chain. And I'm not quite sure, maybe someone can verify for me, but I believe that Satoshi Nakamoto referred to it as a time chain. I could be wrong with that. Someone verify for me, but I believe that's the case. All right. But this is extraordinarily powerful when you view it this way. And when you just give yourself the opportunity to embrace a bit of vision and say, well, just like Amazon, if Bitcoin conquers money, what else can that conquering be applied to? I mean, if Amazon conquered books, what else could that model, that same model that conquered books, be applied to in our lives? I don't think that Bitcoin stops at monetary value. I think it started its life at monetary value. But I think it spreads to every other area of our lives the way the internet did, the way Amazon did. Do you follow what I'm saying, guys? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Anybody? Well, I hope so. Now, you might not agree, but I hope you at least sort of consider this. I have a comment here by Bitcoin Malayali. Time is infinite until we relate it with energy. Why we say time is limited as we relate it with our short life. That is true. Time is infinite, though. Our whole life is an energy. We spend our energy for money. That money should finite as it relates with time. All right, I find this interesting because I'm very glad that my friend here raised the concept, raised the point of energy, because um, what makes Bitcoin very unique is that it lives in a new frontier. It is a new frontier. It lives in a new world that humans have discovered. Humans discovered the digital world. And I fight with people to try to grasp this concept that the digital world always existed. It doesn't, the digital world was not created, it was discovered. The same way that, you know, an undiscovered piece of land wasn't made when it was discovered. It was discovered. It wasn't made. And just because you didn't know it existed before doesn't mean that it was created. The digital world or realm has always existed. The same way that the atomic level of life existed millions of years. Well, it existed from the very beginning of the beginning of existence. But just because we became aware that there was this entire level of life at the atomic level, because it took someone to put a contraption together with some metal, some aluminum, some rubber, and some special glass, magnifying glasses that gave human beings the ability to see this newly discovered level of life at the atomic level, these atoms moving around, doesn't mean that atoms were created. And just because human beings reach the level of discovering that there is a new realm called the digital realm where things live and exist there, things can live and exist there, doesn't mean that the digital realm was created. It was discovered. And so Bitcoin lives in that digital realm. It is the supreme thing in that digital realm, in that new thing that was discovered. And this is why I'm always telling people Bitcoin is not an invention, it's a discovery. And so Satoshi Nakamoto just entered that realm and discovered Bitcoin, which is the manifestation of digital scarcity. But what's so unique about this is that Bitcoin is also tied to the physical world through its energy use. So the energy is the bridge from the physical world to the digital world. That's wild. And so it has one foot in the physical world and one foot in this new frontier, this digital world that humans are starting to get more and more comfortable with and live in and explore. The same way space is a new frontier to explore, digital space, cyberspace is a new frontier to explore. Bitcoin's there, it always has been, it was discovered. But Bitcoin has one foot in the physical world through energy. Now, here is where time comes in. So you've got digital value, Bitcoin. You've got, that's the foot in the digital world. You've got physical value, energy, and you've got time. Wow. Now it's use of energy and time that truly makes it unbreakable, invincible, and something that has probably always been in existence, but will be in existence forever. Because first law of energy conservation, you cannot destroy energy. Energy is never destroyed. It is reshaped, repackaged, reformed, but it is never destroyed. So the same ounce, the same amount of energy that existed 2 million years ago exists today, right? You're drinking the same water that someone 2 million years ago drank. You are breathing the same air. The energy is the same. It's recycled, but it's the same. It's never destroyed, ever. And so what I think Bitcoin Malayi, Malayali, I think, is talking about here is the fact that energy is infinite. It's not infinite in supply. It's actually finite in supply. It's just never destroyed. It's reused over and over and over again. And so doesn't that have similar traits to what we say Bitcoin is? It's finite and it can't be destroyed. How can Bitcoin be destroyed if in fact it is energy made digital? It's digital energy, and energy can't ever be destroyed. So that means Bitcoin can't ever be destroyed. Now, time, how does time contribute to its invincibility? Well, you know how if in order to bring into existence digital value, right? And it's done through computational work, then what if the ability to do the computational work gets better? So if a certain amount of Bitcoin is supposed to be brought into existence every 10 minutes, if I increase the capability of the machinery, the computational machinery, the computers, the chips, if they get faster and more efficient, then shouldn't I be able to produce more Bitcoin in 10 minutes than someone could produce in 2010? So shouldn't today I be able to mine more Bitcoin because my computers and my chips are far more efficient and more powerful than someone who mined it in 2010? But the way Bitcoin solves that is through time, because it ties itself to energy and time, which mean that nope, I don't care how fast your computers are, it's 10 minutes, bro. I don't care how efficient your chips are, it's 10 minutes, bro. You can jump up and down instead of doing 100 jumping jacks in a minute, you can do 2 billion jumping jacks in a minute now, and still you're not going to change the fact that in 10 minutes the new Bitcoin comes into existence, or the becomes issued. It's already in existence. Remember, Bitcoin is already fully in existence. It just reveals itself to the world in pieces, but the whole is already there. And so it's more of an issuance rate than an inflation rate. I get into fights about this all the time, that Bitcoin doesn't have an inflation rate. It has an issuance rate. All right. So if I have 21 cookies that I baked, and then I sell 19 of those cookies. I sell 19 of those cookies. Have I inflated the 21 supply that I started with? No. I've issued 19. And if I do 20, and if I sell another 20, have I inflated the 21? No, I've issued 20 out of the 21. So my argument is that Bitcoin doesn't have an inflation rate, but some people think that's semantics. It's really not, in my opinion. Bitcoin has an issuance rate. It doesn't have an inflation rate. You don't ever inflate. An inflation rate can only be applied when you don't know what the ultimate supply is. So gold has an inflation rate because who knows how much is in the universe? If you don't know, if something is not finite, then it must have an inflation rate. If it's finite, it has an issuance rate. You're counting down, buddy. I start off with 85 years of my life. I'm counting down every day. every year I'm counting down. I'm not counting up. I'm not inflating my life by a year. If I spend a year, I'm actually taking away a year. And so I don't buy into this concept that Bitcoin has an inflation rate. It starts its life with, it has 21. It still has 21. It will forever have 21. How is that inflation? Okay. It reveals a new cookie every 10 minutes. I get it. It sells a new cookie from the 21 cookies, but it doesn't inflate the 21 cookies. But that's another topic. I digress a bit. Anyway, it's so very fascinating to me, guys. So very fascinating, this concept that Bitcoin is time. And time has, as I mentioned before, has always fascinated me. Jeremy's saying, hey, Oliver, great points. I buy Bitcoin because I'm buying time for my family. That's very true. I like that. If my family treats the time I have bought them with respect and responsibility, they will have time to give to their family into perpetuity. That's true. Bitcoin allows families to now plan for the future because we have a money that doesn't degrade over time. That is so, so very true. And I actually have somewhat of a challenge sometimes explaining the fact that Bitcoin doesn't erode value. And so this strikes many people as being wrong because they say, well, Oliver, the price fluctuates. And I'm like, no, Bitcoin never fluctuates. All right, check that. The unit that you're measuring Bitcoin with is the mover. Bitcoin doesn't move. Bitcoin doesn't change the fact that it produces a new block every 10 minutes. That's not volatile. Bitcoin never goes down. That's not volatile. Bitcoin is never offline. That's not volatile. Bitcoin has never broken its promise. That's not volatile. Bitcoin is the most stable thing that human beings have ever had. And so there's no volatility in Bitcoin. There's volatility in the unit that you're using to look at Bitcoin through. So you choose the US dollar as the barometer of Bitcoin. The barometer is moving. Bitcoin's not moving. So if I own 1% of Bitcoin, I don't care how much the dollar moves, I still own 1% of the Bitcoin network. Wouldn't it be nice if I own 1% of Bitcoin? I'm just trying to make numbers seem digestible here. Well, once I buy 1% of there's no person on planet Earth that can make the 1%, 0.5%, 0.25%. It's not the fiat system, right? So there is no loss of value. Value should not be measured by the unit of account that you are measuring Bitcoin with. The value should be measured by what percentage of the total pie do I have, and has that changed? No. So if I have 1% of the Bitcoin network, I will remain with 1% of the Bitcoin network forever. No one can change that 1% ownership of the entire thing. Now, as more of the world decides to stuff its value inside of this thing we call Bitcoin, then the value based on the monetary unit that you're using to measure Bitcoin through does become more valuable. But your percentage of the total network never changes unless you just keep accumulating more, which I believe everyone should do at this stage. And I believe everyone should be aggressively within your means. You should be aggressively grabbing this rare property now, because I do believe that we are moving to a place where you can't buy Bitcoin. Oh yes, and I'm not talking about something that I believe that is outside of our lives, your life. I am talking within a few years. I believe you won't be able to buy Bitcoin. Oh, yes, I think that's coming, and I think that's coming in a few years. First of all, there's only 1.8 million Bitcoin available on exchanges to this very day. You think that number is going to go up? I don't think so. I think that for everyone at this particular point who wants to sell, there's going to be someone that gobbles it up. It's never going to be available. And that number is going to go down and down and down. And at what point do you think that it's going to take for 1.8 million Bitcoin to disappear? Not that long. And so I think that this world where we have centralized exchanges that allow us to buy Bitcoin, I think that's going to be a thing of the past. I don't think you're going to be able to buy it. I think that the BlackRocks of the world know this, and so they're coming up with the alternative ways to own it indirectly. You'll be able to get it through us, but to buy Bitcoin, that era is over. Nobody lets this thing go like that anymore. And so here you guys are selling it, and I believe it won't be buyable anymore. I always use this analogy. They used to do land runs in the United States to increase adoption of certain unpopulated areas. They used to give land away for free. They used to have 60-second runs, and they would give you a wooden stake. That's where the names, the term stake your claim came from. Stake your claim. And so at the end of, they'd blow a whistle, they'd line everybody up, draw some lines on the piece of land so that you stayed in your lane, and somebody would blow a whistle, and 60 seconds later they blow it again. You're supposed to stop, drop down to your knees, take the wooden stake, and boom, stake it in the ground. You stake your claim. That's your land. They gave land away for free. Are they giving land away for free now in the United States? No. After that, after they weren't giving land away for free, then you had to purchase land. But there was a period where you could just purchase land for a few dollars. Does this sound familiar? Where people used to mine Bitcoin practically free? Anybody could? That era is over. And so now the next era is it, but you can buy it. Now, the next phase is that you can't really buy it unless you are really, really up there. Now, you go try to buy any substantial piece of land in Manhattan today and see how far you get. I'm not talking about the buildings on top of the land. Those things are more easily sellable. And I'm not talking about the tens of millions of apartments inside of those buildings, those things. So there's a certain point where the land, the base layer of Bitcoin, no one can stake a claim like the early miners did. That the stake the claim era is gone. We're now in the buy phase. Well, they don't have land runs anymore. That era is over, so I can still buy it for relatively cheap. A single Satoshi is 0.00029 of a penny, of a single penny. All right, so I can still grab this land for relatively inexpensive prices. But that phase is going to go away, and it's going to become Manhattan, where nobody sells the land. Now, people will sell companies that they tie into Bitcoin. For instance, I'm an angel investor in the Satoshi app, right? That's coming to you, and all of you are going to use it. Yes, you have no choice. But I will say this, right? That's sellable. Everything like that is sellable. I sell that at a certain price. My stake in that, I can sell that. But Bitcoin, never. Do you understand? So what I'm saying is that as this plays out, no one's going to sell the base layer. You're going to sell things that you create on top of the base layer. See, the internet's the base layer of all the trillion-dollar companies now. How do you think that Google became a trillion-dollar company? Building on top of the internet. How do you think Amazon became a $1 trillion company? Building on top of the internet. How do you think Apple went from its early struggles of being a hardware manufacturer to being a $1 trillion company? It tied a product to the internet called the iPhone. It changed its life forever, right? So all of these, the base layer brought about $1 trillion assets that built on top of the base layer. But what was interesting about the internet era is that we were never given the ability to invest or to own or to stake a claim in the base layer called the internet. So if the internet gave birth to $1 trillion operations, $1 trillion assets, gave birth to a whole new world on top of it, what do you think Bitcoin's going to do as the base layer of money? It's going to create the Satoshi apps of the world. It's going to create the squares of the world, the micro strategies of the world that start to plug into it and build things on it. Those things are for sale all day long, yes. But we're going to get to a place where no one sells the internet. Why would Amazon sell the internet? Think about it. If Amazon owned a piece of the internet and its entire business is built on the internet, it's a $1 trillion plus asset. Why would it sell the base layer that gives it life? It's the dumbest thing in the world. I am telling you, we're going to a place where no one sells the base layer. You sell the things on top of it. Where no one sells Manhattan, you sell $1 billion building on the Manhattan land. You don't sell the land. You understand? Hilton Hotels, they got this model right all the way back in the early to mid 1900s, right? I believe that they were the first. Was it Marriott? I think it was Marriott, right? Marriott came out with this incredible model. They were like, why don't we just stop being a hotel company? And I can imagine the talk around the boardroom table at that time. What are you talking about? We became what we are as a hotel company. This is, well, no, hear me out. This is, why don't we just get into the land? Why don't we become the land company? And they're like, tell us more. This is, well, okay, so we'll own the land. We won't ever sell the land, but we will construct a building to sell to someone on our land and let them deal with the building. And I can imagine people say, well, tell us more. Well, the property under the buildings will never be sold. This will always be ours. And as long as we can make the property always be in use, the value of the property will rise. So we will have the forever item, the land. The others will have the building for 99 years. They'll be able to write off the expenses for having the lease on the building for 99 years. The building is effectively theirs. We can sell them our experience running the Marriott, so we can provide the food for their building. We can provide the staff to run their building, but the building's theirs. The land is always ours. And I can imagine the people around smoking their cigars in their three-piece suits with their legs crossed and the little time watches they have in their little vest pockets with a chain attached to the middle button of their vest. Remember those days? And I can see the old men like, yeah, Johnny, that's a good idea there. Let's start implementing that. And thus they began becoming not a hotel company, but a real estate company, a landowner. They wanted to own the base layer. And so while those buildings on top of their base layer switch from owner to owner, buyer to seller, all of that transaction does happen on top of the land, but not on the land that Marriott owns. That never changes. You've got to start looking at Bitcoin this way, guys. It's the base layer of value and will increasingly become so for the world. Why else do you think it's become the best performing asset in the history of the world? Because value's not going into it? Is that why that's what you think? You think it's the best performing asset in the world because it's not being adopted? How silly. Because value is not moving from other areas of value into it. You think it became that because that's not happening? You think the people who used to have gold are not saying, let me take a portion and put it in Bitcoin? You think the people who used to keep all of their value in the stock market have not started to say, I'm going to take a little bit and put it in Bitcoin? Then how else did it become the 12th most valuable asset on planet Earth? How else did it already become the fastest value increasing asset in the history of the world, the best performing? How else, if that's not going on? Well, Bitcoin is not used for anything. Are you kidding me? How else has it done what it's done? It can't just catapult itself there by itself. So when you see this thing for what I believe it really is, this whole nonsense that also, when do I go back, starts to fall away more and more. This is what happened to me, guys. This is what happened to me. Beginning to use it and see it more as the base layer. We'll see there's so many layers to Bitcoin. It so is. And guys, even the way I see it, I believe I'm only scratching the surface. And Derek says, thank you for your time, Oliver. I like that. I like that play on words there. I was motivated to have this talk, and I'm going to let you go now, but I was motivated to have this brief talk with you, or not so brief talk with you, by someone's comment that really took me. And I don't want to put this person on blast. I actually appreciated the comment, to be honest with you. But it hit me in such a, I don't know, sort of like a caring way. I may not have responded that way, but it hit me in a caring way because this comment made me believe, or made me realize once again, how our time preferences have been corrupted by a very faulty and corrupt system. Because the thing that we give our life for disappears by no fault of our own, by no vote of our own, because it goes down every single second that we hold it, we have from generation to generation become more and more indoctrinated to get rid of it faster. So there used to be more of a mantra in families to save. You got to save. I remember my grandmother, my grandparent, got to save, open a bank account, you got to save, don't spend everything you make, you got to save. And that mantra is pretty much gone today. And to be honest with you, it should be, so that now you have the Kawasaki's of the world that say saving is for losers. Don't save. In fact, do the opposite of save, go into debt, because the only way to beat a corrupt system is to put the system in debt. And so we've gone all the way from saving your value to not only spending or using all of your value, but go over and beyond the value you have and go into debt. And that's what a corrupt system does, where I give my life in exchange for this value and you make that go down. So the longer I hold what represents the life that I gave, the longer I hold on to it, the less valuable it becomes. So what do I spend it on really fast? Now, people in Venezuela understand this concept a lot better than people in the United States. People in Argentina understand this concept better than many people in the United States today, because they understand, people in Venezuela understand that when they get paid in bolivars, they have to run to the supermarket because the prices of every item on the shelves are rising by the second. And so if they don't quickly take the bolivars that they got from their job and run to the supermarket, the prices might keep going up. will go up and up and up on them. If they miss 5 minutes, the price is higher. If they miss another 5 minutes, the price is higher. So usually they run to the supermarket in teams and say, you go down this aisle, you go down this aisle, you go down, because the prices are rising that rapidly. You see, we're experiencing that in the United States. I'm not in the United States right now, but I'm speaking from the point of view as an American. We, as Americans, we're experiencing that same thing. It's just slower, so we don't feel it. It's sort of like the planet is circling around at 35,000 miles an hour or whatever the number is, but we don't feel it. So this is happening where the Venezuelans feel it really fast, and it's so slow for us. It's much slower, so we don't feel it at all. But it's the same movie, it's the same movement, it's the same thing that's happening to us. So I give my life in exchange for this value, and the value, the longer I hold on to the token that represents my life, the dollar, that dollar loses value. So I am unconsciously taught to get rid of it. And that is why you see a wasteful society now that spends it on bullshit, throwing money in the air. They have no respect for it because it's practically subconsciously worthless to us. It's going to be worth less next week anyway, so I might as well throw it away today. And so this idea of saving is gone today because the money is bad. If the money went up in value over time, I'm not talking about every day, but if you could be guaranteed that what you save is substantially more every 4 years, wouldn't you hold on to it? Wouldn't you hold on to more of it? Like, okay, I've got $1 million in money right now. This money goes up every 4 years exponentially. So if I spend the $1 million now, it could be 10 million 4 years from now. There's an opportunity cost. So you know what you do? You spend a little bit probably, and you save as much as you possibly can, knowing that it's guaranteed to be up substantially 4 years from now. Why am I wasting this now? So when the money's opposite, which Bitcoin is, you adopt a savings mentality. But when the money is going to guarantee to be less 4 years from now, you adopt a spending mentality. And so we are in a spending mentality today. And this comment that motivated me to have this talk with you right now was a comment that touched on this topic. And the person said, well, I just want the price of Bitcoin to go up because I've been in this for 2 years and I'm tired of waiting. And I was like, 2 years? Like, dude, I've been trading for 43 years. If I had this 2-year mentality, I would have never been who I am. I would have never achieved what I achieved. There's nothing of value in life that can come in 2 years, guys. I think I responded something like, you can't even get a rinky-dink, D-rated community college associate's degree anywhere in America for less than 2 years. What of value can happen in 2 years? And this is what a corrupt system creates. It creates this delusional thinking that value can happen in 2 years. It's not possible. You can hit the lotto. You can go to the casino and hit the jackpot, maybe. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real value. Does an elite athlete become an elite athlete inside of 2 years? Does a real investment truly pay off in less than 2 years? This is all fiat mindset erosion. That it must come now. The fact that Bitcoin is not much higher than its prior high from last cycle is a freaking gift. That is not a fault. That is not something you should poo-poo. You should be on your knees thanking the God you worship that it's not. That's Bitcoin's benevolence. That is not its problem. Bitcoin is the way you're supposed to look at this anyway. And let's just do this. Let's get the novice thinking out of the way right now. You don't judge Bitcoin from the highs. That's the stupidest thing. That's the first thing I correct with my traders. Get this novice, no brain, low intelligence thought out of your mind right now. Forget the highs. You always judge Bitcoin by the lows. It's the lows, stupid. I'm going to say it 2 more times. It's the lows, stupid. It's the lows, stupid. So you judge Bitcoin's progress every 4 years with the cycle low. So if the cycle low at one point was $1 and it's $12, the next cycle low is $12. The next cycle low is $600. The next cycle low is $3,200. The next cycle low is $16,000. And those are actually the cycle lows, by the way. Now, if someone told you, if someone removed the highs, if someone removed all of Bitcoin's highs and said, look at this asset, it went from $1 to 12 to 100 to 300 to 600 to 1,000 to 3,200 to 16,000. If someone did those dots on a chart and connected them, you would say, oh my God. But because you do the novice thing and focus on the highs, you get tricked, you get fooled. It's not the highs, it's the lows, stupid. $1, $12, $100, $300, $600, $1,100, $3,200, $16,000. Now, where's the next cycle low? We don't know. Maybe that's $90,000. And maybe the next cycle low, maybe that's $700,000. And the next cycle low, maybe that's $1.3 million. It's the lows, stupid. Everything else is noise. Everything is noise. It's the lows. And some people say, well, Oliver, what if that changes in the future? Stop trying to figure out what has never happened before. This is your problem. You're living in a dream world. Well, what if? But keep your butts out of this. It's never happened. And you bet that way until it changes. You don't create a scenario that has never happened and play that. You don't play what's never happened. You play what's happened consistently. You don't play what's never happened. I fight with traders like this all the time. Why are you creating something in your mind that never happens and giving that more importance than what's happened every single time? Like, why do you do that? You give the picture in your mind. I'll give you a quick story. I know I said I was going to let you go, but I'll give you a quick story. I have twin girls, all right? And they are going to be 18 now. But when they were little, they were, I think, like 4 years old. And they came from their little preschool or what have you. They came very excited one day, and they had these little milk cartons. Each one had a milk carton. You know how this project, I don't know, I know I'm dating myself. We used to do these things back in the old days, but the teacher had them cut the bottom of a milk carton out and put dirt in it, and they planted seeds in them. So they created these little plant pots from the bottom of milk cartons. And each one of them, they both came home that day, and they both had a milk carton with some dirt in it. And I said, what is that, babies? And it says, Daddy, look, this is going to grow. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I took them to the windowsill. We put these milk cartons on the windowsill, and it says, this is where they're going to get some sun. We're going to make sure that the dirt is nice and moist every day. And yes, it is going to grow. And I will tell you that, boy, what a nightmare. Every single day, right? They get up, brush their teeth, run down the stairs to check the windowsill, and then start crying. I would be upstairs and be like, what the heck is going on? Is somebody killing them? I'd run downstairs and I said, what's the matter? Babies, what's the matter? I said, Daddy, look. And I'd look into the milk cartons, and it's like, yeah, There's nothing there. Daddy, there's nothing there. I'm like, babies. Well, wait a minute. Listen, sweetie, it doesn't work that way. So you see, the magic is happening underneath. It's you don't see it right now, but you will. But it's happening underneath. It's not. They're like, no, but daddy, you have to dig it up to see if it's okay. I think something went wrong. No, nothing went wrong, sweetheart. It's just all the magic is happening underneath. And every single day, I went through the same thing every single day. Daddy, again, something's wrong. Dig it up, dig it up, dig it up. And then one day, boom. And then I had to deal with one crying. Oh, hers popped up and mine didn't. Let's dig it up. Something's wrong. I'm like, no, baby, it's not. They don't always grow at the same rate. All right. Maybe yours is tomorrow, another day. And the next day, thank God, the other one popped through. And this is sort of, this is tied to time preference. I actually forget why I told you that story. Just thinking about my baby girls. But this is tied to time preference as well. This expectation that you're supposed to get the sprouts right away. I want you guys focused on the lows. I want you to forget about the highs. I want you to focus on the lows. And I want you to realize that a single year for Bitcoin is not a single year. Bitcoin's birthday is leap years. It's every 4 years. You judge its progress 4 years at a time. The same way you judge your kids' progress from year to year. Oh, how did they do during first grade? Great. All right. How did they do in second grade? Great. How did they do in ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade? You judge your kids that way, right? Their progress, their schoolwork, whatever. And so we judge Bitcoin through its years, but it's leap years for Bitcoin. It's not every year. And so if you judge Bitcoin by its leap years, by its actual years, you see a straight line up. And if you take the worst point of every 4-year period, every birthday, you take the lowest point of every birthday, it's a freaking straight line up. And this will help you eliminate all the noise, all the bullshit you hear, all the chatter, all the Bitcoin hate, all the nonsense you hear just goes away when you view it properly. Anyway. Whoa. Rose saying, Oliver, great stuff. How will this scale to the everyday holder? Will people rent out their Bitcoin for others to build on it in some way? I believe that some of that's going to be going on. I just believe that some people ask me, well, Oliver, will there ever be a need for investing in stocks and companies anymore? And I said, there will always be a need for that. You see, because Bitcoin will just be a more powerful tool to allow us to do that more intelligently. And so, for instance, I might use Bitcoin. I might, for instance, take a loan against my Bitcoin to make an investment somewhere. All right. And I believe that banks are positioning themselves to custody their Bitcoin, custody your Bitcoin. And when you custody your Bitcoin with this financial institution, let's say, they will roll out the red carpet and you'll be able to get anything you want in life. Oh, you have Bitcoin? Right this way, sir. Oh, you have dollars? We don't accept those anymore. I'm not teasing, but you know what I'm saying. Like the person that has Bitcoin in any decent amounts, man, you're going to be the elite. You're going to be the new elite. This world's going to flip. That is what I truly believe. You're going to be the one that gets a red carpet. You're going to be the one that can get anything on planet Earth because you have that. And I believe that you'll never have to sell it either. And so, yeah, now I do believe that Bitcoin will always be available. Don't misunderstand me when I say that Bitcoin, you'll never be able to buy it. You'll be able to work for it. Oh, you'll be able to deal in the dust level. You see, the Satoshi level right now, that's the dust level of Bitcoin. You'll be able to work for dust. Oh, of course. You'll be paid in dust, of course. But chunks of land, That's going away. That is why I am pounding the table with you guys all the time, because we're in the chunky stage. This is the chunky stage. We want chunks of this because chunks are going to disappear. Dust will forever be. So get that straight. Awesome, guys. Wow. Yes. Love you guys. Love you guys. Listen, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you very much for tuning in. I just want to quickly see how many people are here at this time. Whoo, decent. Okay, not bad. I appreciate it, guys. Again, I'm always so appreciative of the time you give me. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me your time to listen to what I have to say and blab about Bitcoin. It's my favorite topic now. I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Don't forget, it's Global Bitcoin Day coming up. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!